Alright, so welcome back, and on this one we need to talk about filters and the loudness control, which is filter and loudness control. So remember, this is a series, this is the third part. We already talked about oscillators and the modulations that we get with the default panel. So now we're going to talk about filters. So I'm going to go, just like we did before, to default and then go to advanced and turn this off. So there are some very basic concepts that you need to learn first. And maybe you already know this because you have some experience, so maybe it's going to be a little bit boring. But remember, this is intended for beginners. This video is for beginners. So I'm going to teach you this. So with the filter, what you get is a cutoff frequency and an emphasis. So we're going to start with the cutoff. So I'm going to turn everything off and I'm going to leave the oscillator number 1 on. And if I play something, that's the sound. All right, that's it. Super simple. So the cutoff frequency, what it will do, it will cut frequencies. It's like using an EQ, but it will remove the higher frequencies. So if you take a look at the spectrum, as they go down, I'm chopping the higher frequencies, right? And if I go too much, of course, we are just cutting everything and we get just one single harmonic. But this is how what the cutoff frequency is going to do. It's going to just remove higher frequencies. It's just an EQ. Like an EQ. Okay, so with this one we cut frequencies, and if you think about this, this is why this is a subtractive synthesizer. We subtract what we don't want from the higher frequencies. I know it's pretty dumb, but that's what it is. So then you get the emphasis. So of course this frequency is going to happen at some point. So the emphasis is the resonance control, in other words. And this what will do, it will add a peak. And notice you can see it on the spectrum. It will add a peak when the cutoff frequency it's breaking. So if I go to lower values, we get no peak. But if I go up, we're gonna start to get a peak. And if I move the cutoff frequency, we get this vowel sound. Right, so that's what it is. So now we know what the cutoff is and what the emphasis or resonance is going to do. Now I'm going to talk about the amount of contour in a minute because this one is very related to what we do right here. And what I'm going to tell you right now, it's just basic concepts of ADSR, or in this case, ADS, attack, decay, and sustain. Now, of course, we get the R, which is release, but we don't get it right here. So this attack, decay, and sustain level, they will decide how the cutoff frequency will move. Not by default, right? So we know that we can move the cutoff frequency with an oscillator by, playing something and following that motion within the LFO. But what if I wanted to not use an LFO, and every time I press a key, I want this cutoff to move up and then go down a single time, just when we press a key, right? Just want to run this instruction one time when I press a key. And it's kind of doing it right there. So that's what I want to do. So the attack and decay and sustain will decide how this motion will happen. If I press a key, I want to go up at some point, and then at some point go back to the original position. That's what I want to do. So the attack time, and I'm going to go all the way down on all of these controls. The attack time will decide how long it takes for the cutoff frequency to go up. Now, everything needs to go up, and at some point it's going to go down. So the attack time will decide how long it takes to go up. So if what I want to do when I press a key, I want to go up and then go down, this one will decide how long it's going to take. So how long it's going to take it to go up, not down, just up. So if I notice that it says milliseconds, it works in milliseconds. So I'm going to say that it will take almost half a second to go from here to here. So if I put the cutoff frequency and I press a key, it goes up, takes half a second, and then goes back. Right? So that's it. We are saying go here, take 5 seconds to do it, and then of course it's going back by default. That's it. Of course, if I go to an absurd time, like, 25 seconds, maybe a little less, 8 seconds, is going to take 8 seconds to go up to this point, and then it's going to go back. So I'm going to go. It's very long. 8 seconds, and then goes back. right, so that's it. That's how the attack time works. So of course, it depends on what you want to do. If you're doing some pads, maybe the attack time is going to be, pretty long because you're using some pads. But if you're using kind of a pluck, well, maybe the attack time should be super fast, right? Now, of course, everything that goes up needs to go down at some point. And right now, we know how to control the going up. So the decay will control how long it takes for it to go down. Right now, if I do some attack time like half a second, it's going to go up and then goes back instantly, right? It's just go down instantly. And it's because the decay time, it's 0 milliseconds. So it's not waiting for anything, it's going up and then going right back, not waiting anything. It just goes up and then instantly goes back. So this works the same way. How long is going to take for the cutoff to go back to the original point? So if I go and provide something like 1 second, it's going to take half a second to go up and 1 second to go down to the original point. So, and we get that sweep. Right, so pretty simple. Now we know how long it's going to take, how to control how long it takes to go up and how long it takes to go down. And this is a rule of the ADSR. Something goes up, it will reach a higher peak, and then at one point it needs to calm down, right? And okay, so with the decay time, you get up to 28 seconds. So if this can go up and it can take 28 seconds to go down, and of course that's crazy, right? It's just too much time. But if you take a look at the spectrum, it's going. It's, taking a long time to go back, but it's respecting this 28 seconds. Now, then we get the sustain level. And this is kind of breaking this rule that everything that goes up needs to calm down. Because right now, again, we are going up and then we go back to the original position. But what if I want to go up and then go back and stay at the middle? What if I want to do that? So this is going to be the sustain level. This will decide when it goes down, when you want to sustain the note or sustain the position where the cutoff frequency is. So I'm going to go and do the same. We know that this goes up and takes maybe 1.5 seconds to go down. And notice it goes back to maybe right here. Notice that right here we get a peak, right? So if I go to the sustain will make this go up and it will stay at some point that it's not the beginning. Notice that the peak is right here on this frequency, not here anymore. And if I keep going up, the frequency is going to go up and then it will go up and then go back and stay around here. Maybe there. So that's what it's doing. So I'm going to do it again. So the sustain at the end of the day will decide when it goes back, if it's going to stay at some point in between or it's going to go back to the beginning. So 0 values, it means go back to the beginning. And something in between is going to be stay someplace in between. Now, if I go all the way up on the sustain, this means that when it goes up, it will never go back down. So we are kind of disabling the decay time. So now that if you go all the way up, the decay time will not work because if I press a key, it will go up and it will never calm down. So this is the basics of ADR or ADS in this case, not R. And when I release the key, of course, the note dies. But now this is how we get to control how the filter works, how the kind of frequency works, right? So we can go decide how much it takes to go back, or if we want to go back or we want to stay in between. Right? So, it was very simple. So, yeah. And notice that at the bottom, we get the same control. So they kind of follow the same rules. And every ADSR control that you will find on any synthesizer works the same way because they are the same rules. We are just generating an envelope. So then we need to talk about this amount of contour, right? And it's a weird word, and this is very particular to this synthesizer, to the Mini Moog. So the amount of contour is going to decide how aggressive whatever is that we are doing right here is going to be on the cutoff frequency. If I go all the way down, it doesn't matter what we do right here. I press a key, and we are just not getting that movement at all. We are just not, modulating the cutoff frequency. And it's because this one will decide how aggressive it is. So if I go and provide just a little bit, we can hear that motion. But if I go crazy, notice that the controls are just kind of getting, into an exponential kind of a way. They're much aggressive. If I go down, the controls are not that crazy. So again, this is how strong the whatever is that we are doing right here is going to be. And this is very useful because sometimes maybe you're going to do something, maybe at half, and you kind of like it, you like what it's doing, but maybe it's a little bit too aggressive. So then you go and lower the contour and you get something a little bit different, if that's what you want. So this is a very useful control. Okay, so as you notice, you have two buttons right here. We already know what the filter modulation does, but we get this button right here and this one right here. I'm going to go and put the amount of contour, maybe at 30%. It doesn't really matter. I just don't want to, break your ears. So what this does, it will enable key follow. So remember that when we talked about the oscillator right here, the modulation, that every time we press a key, it will perform kind of an LFO, but as we go up, it's going to go faster in the rate of the LFO. Well, this one, it's pretty much the same thing, but in terms of the aggressiveness that this is, pretty much applying to the cutoff. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to go right here and start pressing keys, right? I'm going to go maybe there. And notice that we get a sound. All right, so we get a sound. Now, every time we go from low to high, notice that the higher keys are just a bit more aggressive. So this one, what it will do, it will just attempt to create a consistency between low frequencies and high frequencies. So every time we go higher on the keys, is going to be a bit more aggressive. Now, if I turn this off, it's going to sound very different. I'm gonna notice that everything pretty much sounds like the same movement with the cutoff. Everything is pretty similar, even though we are going up in pitch. If I turn this off, it's going to sound very different. So notice that the cutoff is a bit more aggressive, right? So that's the difference. So this is what it will do. It will listen which key you're playing, and if you go up in pitch, it's going to get a bit more aggressive. It's just a bit more aggressive. And if we play very low keys, that motion is not going to be super aggressive. Now, what is the difference between having the first one and the second one on or off? Well, the difference is that the first one is going to be a third of an octave. So it's less than full. So if I turn this on and turn this off, that whatever this is doing is not going to be as aggressive as having both on. So you get a kind of a percentage of what it's doing. Now, of course, if you turn both, it's going to be a bit more dramatic. And you can even turn this one off if you wish. So this one is a fifth of an octave. So notice it's a bit more aggressive. And this is important, and this works along with the amount of contour, because maybe you're doing something right here that you really like, and maybe it's too aggressive, or maybe you play some keys, higher keys, and it's again just super bright, and then you play low keys and it's super dark, which is maybe not what you want. So then it means that you will need to check the amount of contour, which is how much you're doing, and check the keyboard control, because maybe what you don't want is the keyboard control. You want the higher keys to do something and the lower keys to do the same thing, right? So again, this works just like the keyboard control. All right, so there's one more thing we need to talk about right now, which is the loudness control. Now, since we already talked about the attack time, decay time, and sustain level for the the cutoff filter to move the cutoff filter, what this is going to do, and notice we have the same thing. Well, this is the same thing we get right here, but this one controls how this goes up and this goes down, right? But this one will control how the volume goes up and go down. Because, of course, we are playing some sounds and this sound just goes out and then goes to some speakers or whatever. In this case, maybe our headphones. So this one will control how the volume comes out. And this one works exactly the same. And for now, I'm going to go to zero attack, zero decay, and just maybe full sustain, right? I don't want to get the cutoff. And I'm going to go and play something like that. All right, maybe I'm going to turn the volume up just a little bit. And notice right here, you get the volume control. It's all right. I just want a sound that we can hear. So as soon as I press the key, and notice I'm going to go and put all of this, maybe not the sustain, maybe the sustain all the way up. I'm going to press a key, and we press a key, and we instantly hear the sound, right? So what happens if I want the volume to ramp up? Just like we do with the attack time and the cutoff. So this is how we can do it. We're going to go right here and say that every time I press a key, it's going to take 10 milliseconds to go up. Of course, 10 milliseconds, it's not a lot. But as we go up, notice that the values are kind of exponential. They're going to keep growing and growing until you get higher values. Now, if I press a key, it's going to take 1 second for the volume to reach its maximum peak. Now, there's the maximum peak. And it stays there. So why is it staying there? I'm pressing and holding the key. Stays there because remember, the sustain level decides when it comes down. Since I'm pressing and holding a key, it will never go down. That's pretty much. So if I go and press a key, it will go up and go down at some point. So, and I'm still pressing the key. Notice I'm pressing, still pressing, and the sound goes off. So the sustain level will decide when the volume goes down, where it's going to be, where it's going to go down. It's going to go down to silence, or maybe it's going to stay at some point in between. So if I press a key, it goes up, it takes 1 second, and then goes down, but it's going to stay at some point. And notice that this one will affect where the sound goes. Notice that I'm moving this, it goes up in volume to the maximum peak, or we can stay there. And this is important because maybe we want a note to go up and then we keep pressing and then goes down. Now the problem is that now it's going down, going up, then going down, but it's super aggressive, right? So again, this is how the decay, what the decay is going to rule. How long it's going to take to go down to a point, which is zero, which is full silence, or maybe, to stay in between of something. So I'm going to say that it will take maybe 1 second to go down. So it's going to take 1 second to go up to maximum volume. It's going to take 1 second to go down and stay at some point where we are deciding with the sustain. Goes up, takes 1 second, goes down, it takes 1 second, and it stays right there. So remember, this is the control for the volume. And this is very important to create a sound, because maybe you want the sustain level to go down right away, or maybe you don't want the decay to last that long. Right? It's just very essential to whatever sound that you're going to build. For example, if you're playing some pads, maybe you will need to add some attack time right here to the cutoff frequency to provide a little bit of motion, but the attack time needs to be longer because you're doing chords, you're playing a pad. And then of course, when you release, or you need, it needs to go down smoothly because it's a path, it's a pad. So I'm going to go right here and start again because I want to start from a familiar point, and you can go to default and start from the same place. So I'm going to show you something that it's very important for this hardware, you know, for this synthesizer. So now we know that the attack time is going to be, you know, how long it's going to take to go up. So if I go and do 1 second, I know I press a key and it's going to take 1 second to go up. And notice that I'm not cutting any frequency. So we get everything. It's going to take 1 second to go up, and then at one point it's going to go down. So that's going to be decided by the decay time. So if I do 1 second right here, just 1 second, and I'm going to go and say that the sustain level goes all the way down. So we are not going to stop any place in between, you know, within the volume. We're going to go all the way down to volume 0. It means that it takes 1 second to go up, 1 second to 1.6 seconds to go down to full silence, right? That's the plan. Now, of course, if I press a key now, and I press and I release, this decay time, this cycle needs to complete before it goes to full silence. It doesn't matter that I'm pressing a key and releasing it. It doesn't matter. It's still gonna fulfill the decay time that you selected right here. So if I press and hold, that, you know, that doesn't matter. It's just still the same. It's going to do the decay. It's going to fulfill the time and then go down. And notice I'm still pressing the key with the mouse. And if I release it, nothing happens, of course, because the decay time died already. So you need to be aware of this when you build sounds, because maybe what you want to create kind of a blocky kind of a sound. And this is not going to work because the decay always is going to be there when you release the keys. So then you will need to decide what are you going to do with the decay. You know, I need to shorter decay. So every time I press a key, the note dies. I need a plucky sound, which means a hard, you know, just some attack right there. And now the sound is just very short. So notice we get that plucky sound. So maybe a little bit of attack time, decay time is not a bad idea, or maybe a little bit of attack and maybe a little bit of decay. And then we get more plucky sound. So these are decisions that you will need to, you know, take, or to you need to modify these controls depending on which sound you want to create. If it's a bass or, you know, a pad or, you know, whatever it is that you're building. Okay, so and of course the attack, decay, and sustain, you know, this logic will be shared to with all the other synthesizers in the human world. They all work the same way. Now, of course, today we get attack, decay, sustain, and release, and sometimes we get more, but we're gonna get there, you know, maybe with a different synth. This is the way this synthesizer works. All right, so we still need to do a lot of learning, because now we know how the filter works, the loudness, which is the ADS control. We get to know how the mixer works, the oscillators. So we need to learn the rest. All right, so let's go. We're going to go to the next video. You will need to go to the next video of this series. And I'm going to be uploading that tomorrow. If you like the video, remember to like, okay?